A lot of things come through the door in my time. Old, new, weird, wonderful, you name it. But there's something about old coins that always gets my attention. We're about to take a journey through some of America's most valuable coins. These aren't just pieces of metal you find in your pocket. These are bits of history, little time capsules that tell the story of our country. Every scratch, every mint mark, every design has a tale to tell. You hold one of these in your hand, and you're holding a piece of the American dream, or maybe a piece of its struggles. Think about it. Before there was a United States, people were using whatever they could get their hands on. Spanish reales, English shillings, even homemade tokens. Each coin represents a moment in time, a decision made by our founding fathers, a gold rush that changed the face of the nation, or even a simple mistake at the mint that created an incredible rarity. These coins have passed through countless hands, witnessed wars, depressions, and incredible periods of growth. They're tangible links to our past, and some of them are worth more than you can possibly imagine. So, get ready. We're going to start way back in the colonial days, even before the US Mint was a thought in anyone's mind. We'll move through the birth of our nation's currency, see the legendary pieces that have become the stuff of collecting legend, and come all the way up to modern times. You're going to learn a lot, you're going to see some incredible pieces of American history, and you're going to find out what makes a simple coin worth millions of dollars. You never know what's going to come through that door, or in this case, onto your screen. Let's get started. Before the United States was, well, the United States, figuring out what to pay with was a real headache. There was no single unified currency. If you were a colonist in the 17th or 18th century, your pockets would be a jumble of coins from all over the world. You'd have Spanish silver dollars, those famous pieces of 8 you hear about in pirate stories, alongside English shillings, French louis d'or, and Dutch guilders. It was a chaotic system, and making change was a nightmare. You'd literally have to cut a Spanish dollar into 8 pieces or bits to make smaller payments. That's where the old phrase 2 bits for a quarter comes from. It was a practical solution to a messy problem. The colonies knew this couldn't last. They needed their own money. Massachusetts was one of the first to take a crack at it, way back in 1652. They started minting the New England coinage and later, the famous pine tree shilling. These were simple, crude silver coins, but they were a huge deal. It was an act of defiance against the British Crown, which had forbidden the colonies from making their own currency. Finding one of these today is like finding a needle in a haystack. They're incredibly rare, and the history behind them, that spirit of independence, makes them unbelievably valuable to collectors. It's a real piece of early American rebellion you can hold in your hand. As the revolution started heating up, the need for a truly American currency became critical. The Continental Congress issued paper money, the continental currency, but it quickly became devalued. Not worth a continental became a common saying. They also experimented with a coin. The 1776 Continental Dollar is one of the great mysteries of American numismatics. We're not even 100% sure if it was meant to be circulated as money or if it was just a commemorative metal. Most were made of pewter, with a few in brass and silver. Whatever its purpose, its connection to the birth of the nation makes it a holy grail for collectors. After the Revolutionary War, under the Articles of Confederation, things were still a bit messy. The federal government was weak, and individual states were still issuing their own copper coins. But there was one coin that tried to bring everyone together, the Fugio cent. This was the first coin officially authorized by the new United States government in 1787. It was designed by none other than Benjamin Franklin. It features a sun and a sundial with the motto, Fugio, which is Latin for I fly, and the phrase mind your business. It was a classic Franklin message, time is flying, so get to work and be productive. A great piece of advice from a great American. The problem with all these early coins and tokens was a lack of consistency. A coin from Massachusetts might not be accepted in Virginia, or it might be valued differently. Foreign coins were still the most trusted form of currency, especially the Spanish silver dollar. It became the benchmark, the standard upon which the future US dollar would be based. The entire system was built on a foundation of foreign silver. This period was all about trial and error. It was about a young nation trying to find its financial footing, trying to create an identity not just on paper, but in the pockets of its citizens. These pre-federal coins are so fascinating because they represent a time of transition. They are the financial artifacts of a country in the making. From the crude pine tree shillings to the optimistic Fugio cent, Each one tells a story of local pride, national ambition, and the everyday struggle of commerce in a new world. They weren't always pretty, and they weren't always perfect, but they were a start. They were the first steps on a long road to a unified American currency. And because so few were made and even fewer survived, they are incredibly rare. When you see one of these, you have to remember the context. There were no big fancy mints with steam presses. These were often made in small private workshops. The quality could vary wildly, and many were lost, melted down, or simply wore out from use. That's why a genuine continental dollar or a nice pine tree shilling can command hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars at auction. It's not just the metal, it's the story. It's the physical evidence of the birth of a nation. So this whole era before 1792 is like the Wild West for coin collectors. It's untamed, full of mysteries, and incredibly exciting. Every piece is a survivor. It's a testament to the fact that before you can build a great nation, you have to figure out the basics, right down to the change in your pocket. It really sets the stage for the next big step, the creation of the United States Mint and the birth of official American money. You gotta have a foundation before you can build a skyscraper. All right, so the country is official, George Washington is president, and it's time to get serious about our money. The Coinage Act of 1792 was a landmark piece of legislation. It established the United States Mint in Philadelphia, which was the nation's capital at the time. This was a huge step. For the first time, America would have its own government-backed currency, produced in its own facility. The act specified the denominations, from a copper half-cent all the way up to a $10 gold eagle, and it established the dollar as the country's standard unit of money. This was the moment American currency as we know it was born. The story goes that the very first coins produced under the authority of the new mint were the 1792 half-deems. A disme was an early spelling of dime. Legend has it that the silver for these coins was personally provided by George and Martha Washington themselves. Some say it was their household silverware. They were struck in the basement of a sawmaker named John Harper before the official mint building was even ready. Only about 1,500 were made. They're not just coins. They're a direct link to the founding fathers. Holding one is like shaking hands with history. They are incredibly rare and sought after, a true piece of American mythology. Once the mint was up and running in 1793, the first coin to come off the presses for mass circulation was the chain cent. This coin caused a bit of a stir. On the back, it had a chain with 13 links, meant to symbolize the unity of the states. But the public didn't see it that way. To them, the chain was a symbol of slavery and tyranny, something they had just fought a war to escape. The design was a PR disaster. It was quickly replaced later that year with the wreath cent, but the chain cent had already made its mark. Because of its controversial design and one-year issue, it's a classic rarity that every serious collector wants. The following year, 1794, saw the introduction of the first official U.S. silver dollar, the flowing hair dollar. This is one of the big ones. The design features a portrait of Lady Liberty with her hair flowing freely, meant to represent freedom. The reverse has a somewhat scrawny-looking eagle. The press used to strike these coins was small and man-powered, so the quality wasn't great. They only managed to strike about 1,758 of them before calling it a day. Of those, only around 130 are known to exist today. It's the granddaddy of all silver dollars, and its rarity is off the charts. One specific 1794 flowing hair dollar is believed by many experts to be the very first one ever struck. Its condition is pristine, with sharp details and reflective surfaces, which is almost unheard of for a coin of this age and type. In 2013, this specific coin sold at auction for over $10 million. That makes it one of the most valuable coins in the world. You have to understand, that price isn't just for a piece of silver, it's for the title of being the first. It's the birth certificate of the American dollar, and you can't put a price on that. Well, apparently you can, and it's $10 million. Alongside the silver coins, the mint also began producing gold coinage, starting in 1795. These were the $5 half eagles and the $10 eagles. Early U.S. gold is a whole different level of collecting. These coins were big money back in the day. A $10 gold piece was more than a week's wages for the average worker. Because of their high value, they weren't used in everyday transactions like copper cents were. They were used for large purchases, bank transfers, and international trade. This meant they saw less circulation and were more likely to be melted down when the price of gold went up. The early designs of these gold coins are beautiful. The turban head design, as collectors call it, features Lady Liberty wearing a cap, not a turban, but the name stuck. These early eagles and half-eagles had a problem, though. The law required them to have a specific amount of gold, but the market value of that gold was often higher than the face value of the coin. So, people would buy them up, ship them to Europe, melt them down, and sell the gold for a profit. This made the coins disappear from circulation almost as fast as the mint could make them. That's why any US gold coin from the 1790s is a major rarity. Finding one in high-grade condition is a once-in-a-lifetime event for most collectors. These early federal coins, from the humble chain cent to the majestic gold eagle, represent the foundation of America's monetary system. They were bold, they were ambitious, and sometimes they were flawed. But they were ours. They established a standard and a tradition that continues to this day, and their scarcity and historical importance make them some of the most desired and valuable coins on the planet. Every field of collecting has its Mona Lisa, its ultimate prize. In American coins, that prize is the 1804 silver dollar. It's known as the king of American coins, and for good reason. The story behind it is full of intrigue, mystery, and history. It's a coin that shouldn't even exist, but it does. And here's the craziest part. None of the 1804 dollars were actually minted in 1804. That's just the beginning of what makes this coin so special. You gotta love a good story, and this coin has one of the best. Here's what happened. Back in 1804, the mint did strike silver dollars, but they used old dies dated 1803. They stopped producing silver dollars entirely after that for about 3 decades because, just like the early gold coins, they were being melted down for their silver content. Fast forward to 1834. President Andrew Jackson wanted to create special sets of coins to be used as diplomatic gifts for foreign heads of state, including the Sultan of Muscat and the King of Siam. He wanted a complete set of every American coin in circulation. The problem was, there was no silver dollar in circulation. So the mint officials looked at their records. They saw that the last year they had recorded striking silver dollars was 1804. They didn't realize those coins were dated 1803. So in 1834, they created brand new dies with the 1804 date and struck a handful of beautiful proof silver dollars to include in these diplomatic gift sets. These first 8 coins are known as Class 1 1804 dollars. They are the original king of American coins, created for actual kings. It was a historical mistake that created a numismatic masterpiece. The story doesn't end there. Years later, back in the 1850s and 60s, a few enterprising mint employees realized how famous and valuable these 1804 dollars were becoming. So they decided to make a few more on the sly. These are known as the Class 2 and Class 3 restrikes. The Class 2 is a unique piece, struck over an 1857 Swiss shooting thaler, and it now resides in the Smithsonian Institution's National Numismatic Collection. You can't buy that one no matter how much money you have. It's a national treasure. The Class 3 restrikes were made to be sold or traded to collectors who were desperate to get their hands on an 1804 dollar. These coins have some slight differences from the originals, and a good expert can tell them apart. But they are still 1804 dollars, struck at the US Mint, and they are incredibly valuable in their own right. In total, only 15 specimens of the 1804 dollar are known to exist across all 3 classes. That's it. 15 coins. That's a level of rarity that is hard to even comprehend. When one of these comes up for auction, the entire collecting world stops to watch. It's a major event. These coins have traded hands between famous collectors, wealthy industrialists, and even royalty for over a century. Each one has a pedigree, a list of its previous owners, that reads like a who's who of history. The most famous one, the Sultan of Muscat Water's Brandchild's Pogue specimen, a Class 1, has sold for millions of dollars multiple times. It's the pinnacle of coin collecting. What makes the 1804 dollar the king isn't just its rarity, it's the story. It's the combination of a historical accident, diplomatic intrigue, and clandestine restrikes. It's a coin that was born out of a misunderstanding and became a legend. It represents a specific moment in American history when the young nation was beginning to assert itself on the world stage. The diplomatic sets were a symbol of American pride and craftsmanship, and the 1804 dollar was the centerpiece. Owning an 1804 dollar is the ultimate goal for many collectors. It's a status symbol, a piece of art, and a profound connection to the past, all rolled into one. Most people will only ever see one in a museum or a book, but the very fact that it exists, with its bizarre and fascinating history, elevates the entire hobby. It proves that behind these little pieces of metal are some of the greatest stories never told. It's not just a coin, it's a narrative, a legend cast in silver, and that's priceless. The 19th century in America was, honestly, a time of massive expansion and change, and nothing changed it more than the discovery of gold. When gold was found at Sutter's Mill in California in 1848, it triggered a tidal wave of humanity heading west. The gold rush was on. This flood of new gold had a profound impact on the nation's economy and its coinage. Suddenly, the United States had a massive supply of the precious metal, and the government needed a way to turn it into money. This led to the creation of new mints and new denominations. In response to the California gold rush, Congress authorized a new $20 gold coin, the Double Eagle. It was the largest gold coin the United States had ever produced. The very first one, the 1849 Double Eagle, is a unique pattern coin. Only one was ever made, and like the Class II 1804 dollar, it now sits in the Smithsonian. It's literally priceless. The following year, in 1850, the Double Eagle went into full production at the Philadelphia and New Orleans mints. These coins became the workhorses of large-scale commerce, banking, and international trade for the rest of the century. They are big, beautiful pieces of history. The gold rush also led to the opening of new branch mints to handle all the metal coming out of the ground. Mints were opened in San Francisco, Carson City, and Denver. Coins from these Western mints, especially the early ones, are highly prized by collectors. Take the 1854 S Half Eagle, a $5 gold piece. The San Francisco Mint had just opened, and records show they only struck 268 of these coins. For a long time, people thought none had survived. Then, one turned up in the 1980s. Today, only 4 are known to exist. It's a legendary rarity from the early days of the Wild West. Another incredible rarity from this era is the 1870 S $3 gold piece. This is another one with a great story. The San Francisco Mint was preparing to lay the cornerstone for its new building, the Granite Lady. The story goes that they wanted to place a specimen of every coin being made that year inside the cornerstone. The problem was, they weren't scheduled to make any $3 gold pieces in San Francisco in 1870, so they specially struck one just to put in the cornerstone. A second, identical piece may have been struck for a famous collector at the time. For years, the one in the cornerstone was the only one known. But then another one surfaced. It's a coin with a mintage of, officially, 1. How do you beat that? It wasn't just gold coins that became rare. The 1870 S-seated Liberty Dollar is another ghost from the San Francisco Mint. The official mint records show no silver dollars were struck in San Francisco that year. 0. And yet, about a dozen are known to exist. What happened? Nobody knows for sure. The theory is that they were struck as presentation pieces or to test the dies, but it was all done off the books. It's a complete numismatic mystery. A coin that, according to the official record, doesn't exist. Yet here it is. That's the kind of thing that gets a collector's heart pounding. Later in the century, you have the strange case of the trade dollar. These were silver coins minted from 1873 to 1885. They were slightly heavier than a standard silver dollar and were created specifically for trade with Asia, to compete with other countries' silver trade coins. They were legal tender in the United States for a short time, but that was revoked, which made them unpopular at home. The mint stopped making them for circulation in 1878, but continued to make a few proof versions for collectors until 1885. The 1884 and 1885 trade dollars are incredibly rare, with only 10 and 5 known respectively. They were made as afterthoughts and are now million-dollar coins. The whole second half of the 19th century is a treasure trove of rarities. Besides the big names, you have coins from the Carson City Mint, stamped with that iconic CC mint mark. Because it was a relatively small mint in a rough-and-tumble town, its mintage numbers were low, and many of its coins are rare today. The Carson City GSA hoard, a huge stash of silver dollars discovered in government vaults in the 1970s, was one of the greatest treasure finds of the 20th century. This era, from the gold rush to the turn of the century, was defined by westward expansion, industrial growth, and incredible wealth. The coins from this period reflect that. They are big, bold, and often made of gold and silver pulled from the American West. The stories behind them, the lost mint records, the cornerstone coins, the unique patterns, make them more than just currency. They are artifacts of America's manifest destiny, a time of incredible ambition and discovery, and their rarity makes them the crown jewels of many collections. When the 20th century dawned, America was a world power. President Theodore Roosevelt believed that our coinage should reflect that status. He thought the current designs were, well, boring and uninspired. He wanted American coins to be works of art, like the coins of ancient Greece. So he personally commissioned the famous sculptor Augustus St. Gaudens to redesign the $10 and $20 gold pieces. What St. Gaudens created is widely considered the most beautiful coin ever made in the United States. The 1907 St. Gaudens double eagle is a masterpiece. The original design was in ultra-high relief, meaning the details were so deep and sculptural that it was almost a small statue. It was stunning, but honestly, it was impractical. It took multiple strikes of the press to bring up the full detail, and the coins wouldn't stack properly. After making about 20 of them, the mint lowered the relief for mass production. Those original 1907 ultra-high relief coins are the holy grail of 20th century numismatics. One sold for nearly $3 million. It's a perfect example of art colliding with commerce. Just a few years later, in 1913, another legendary rarity was born, this time from secrecy and defiance. The Liberty Head nickel was supposed to be replaced by the new Buffalo nickel that year. The mint had orders to stop making the old design, but a rogue mint employee named Samuel Brown allegedly struck 5 Liberty Head nickels with the 1913 date. He kept them secret for years, finally revealing them at a coin convention in 1920. For decades, these 5 coins have been the stuff of legend, owned by famous collectors and even featured in a TV show. Whenever one sells, it's for millions of dollars. Then comes the big one, the coin that is illegal to own, the 1933 double eagle. In 1933, in the depths of the Great Depression, President Franklin D. Roosevelt took the U.S. off the gold standard. He ordered all citizens to turn in their gold coins to be melted down. The mint had already produced nearly 500,000 1933 double eagles, but before they could be issued, the order came to destroy them. All of them were supposed to have been melted into gold bars. But just like with the nickels, a few escaped the mint. For decades, the Secret Service hunted down these escaped 1933 double eagles. They considered them stolen government property. One coin ended up in the collection of King Farouk of Egypt. After a long legal battle, that specific coin was declared legal to own, the only one in the world. In 2002, it was sold at auction for a staggering $7.59 million. Then, in 2021, it sold again for an incredible $18.9 million, making it the most expensive coin ever sold at auction. More have surfaced since, but they remain a legal gray area, making the Farouk specimen truly unique. The World Wars also created some fascinating and valuable errors. In 1943, to conserve copper for the war effort, the mint switched to making pennies out of zinc-coated steel. These silver-colored steelies are common. However, a few leftover copper planchets or blank coins from 1942 accidentally got fed into the presses. The result was a 1943 penny made of copper. Maybe 20 or 30 of these are known to exist. People have searched their change for these for decades. A genuine one is worth a fortune, often over $100,000. It's a classic error coin. The opposite mistake happened the following year. In 1944, the mint switched back to using copper for pennies. But this time, a few leftover steel planchets from 1943 got stuck in the machinery and were struck with the 1944 date. So you have the 1944 steel penny. It's even rarer than the 1943 copper. Finding one of these is like winning the lottery. It's a simple mistake, a small piece of steel that should have been copper. But that mistake created a major collectible rarity worth a life-changing amount of money. The 20th century was a period of incredible change, from America's rise as a global superpower to the turmoil of 2 world wars and the Great Depression. The coins of this era tell that story. The artistic ambition of the St. Gaudens double eagle, the clandestine nature of the 1913 Liberty nickel, the government action behind the 1933 double eagle, and the wartime necessity of the 1943 copper penny. Each one is a snapshot of its time, a story of art, crime, economics, and history, all captured on a small metal disc. You might think that all the super valuable coins are from 100 years ago or more. You'd be wrong. The US Mint is a massive factory, producing billions of coins every year. And even with modern technology, mistakes happen. Plus, sometimes the Mint creates special low mintage issues that become instant collectibles. The era of modern coinage, generally from 1965 to today, has its own set of rarities. You might even have one and not know it. You never know. Let's start with a coin that was never supposed to exist, the 1974 aluminum cent. In the early 70s, the price of copper was skyrocketing, and it was costing the Mint more than 1 cent to make a penny. So they experimented with alternative metals including aluminum. They struck about 1.5 million aluminum cents and sent some out to members of Congress to get their approval. But the vending machine industry and pediatricians were against it. The coins were too light and might not be detected if swallowed. The project was scrapped, and the Mint was ordered to recall and destroy all the samples. But as always, a few escaped. For years, the government claimed none were in private hands. Then one turned up. The story of the 1974 aluminum cent is full of legal battles with the government, which still considers them federal property. Only a handful are known to be outside the Mint and the Smithsonian, and their legal status is murky. But their story and extreme rarity make them one of the most famous and desired modern coins, worth a huge amount of money, if you could legally sell one. It's another case of the government trying to put the genie back in the bottle. A more recent and much more fun story is the 2000p Sacagawea Cheerios dollar. When the new golden dollar was launched in 2000, the Mint partnered with General Mills for a major promotion. They placed 5,500 of the new dollars inside boxes of Cheerios cereal to generate excitement before the coins were released to the public. What nobody realized at the time was that these promotional coins were struck from a different set of dies than the regular circulation coins. The tail feathers on the eagle on the reverse are much more detailed. For years, nobody knew about this difference. Then a collector noticed. Suddenly, everyone who had saved a Cheerios dollar from 2000 was scrambling to check their coin. Most of the 5,500 coins put in cereal boxes were the regular variety, but a small number, maybe 60 or 70, had the detailed tail feathers. These Cheerios dollars are now a huge modern rarity. A coin that someone got for free in a box of cereal can now be worth between $5,000 and $10,000. It just goes to show you should always check your change and your cereal boxes. The Mint also intentionally creates rarities for collectors. In 2009, they decided to pay homage to the most beautiful coin ever made, the 1907 St. Gaudens Double Eagle. Using modern technology, they were able to digitally recreate Augustus St. Gaudens' original ultra-high-relief design. The result was the 2009 ultra-high-relief Double Eagle. It's a 1-ounce, 24-karat gold coin that is absolutely breathtaking. It's what St. Gaudens would have created if he had today's technology. While the Mint made over 100,000 of these, making it not rare in the traditional sense, its beauty and its connection to the original masterpiece make it a modern classic. It was expensive when it was issued and has only gone up in value since. It represents the pinnacle of modern minting technology and a deep appreciation for numismatic history. It's a way for modern collectors to own a piece that captures the spirit of the original ultra-high relief, which most could never afford. Then you have all the errors and varieties that pop up every year. You get coins struck on the wrong planche, coins with doubled dies where the letters and numbers appear doubled, or coins with missing mint marks. These are the kinds of things that can turn a 25-cent quarter into a coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Websites and books are dedicated to tracking these modern errors. It's a treasure hunt that anyone can participate in. So, don't think that coin collecting is just about dusty old coins from the 1800s. The story of American coinage is still being written. From experimental pieces like the aluminum cent to promotional oddities like the Cheerios dollar, and from stunning modern tributes to simple minting errors, there are valuable treasures being created all the time. You just have to know what you're looking for. The next great rarity could be sitting in a cash register or a piggy bank right now. So we've looked at all these incredible coins from pine tree shillings to Cheerios dollars, with prices ranging from a few thousand to almost $20 million. What's the secret formula? What makes one coin worth so much more than another? It's not just one thing, it's a combination of factors. I call it the 4 pillars of value: rarity, condition, history, and demand. You get all four of those in one coin and you've got a masterpiece. Let's break it down. The first and most obvious pillar is rarity. This is simple supply and demand. How many were made and how many are still around? A coin with a low mintage like the 1854 half eagle with only 268 struck is going to be rare from the start. But it's not just about mintage, it's about survival rate. Billions of Morgan silver dollars were minted, but huge numbers were melted down over the years, so certain dates and mint marks are much rarer than their mintage figures suggest. A coin like the 1933 double eagle, with a mintage of 500,000 but a survival rate of maybe a dozen, is the ultimate example of survival rarity. The second pillar is condition, or grade. A beat-up, worn-out coin is always going to be worth less than a pristine, perfect one. Coin grading is a science in itself, on a scale from 1 to 70. A grade of 1 means it's barely identifiable, while a 70 is absolutely perfect, with no marks or flaws, as if it just came off the press. The difference in value between two grades can be enormous. A common date Morgan dollar might be worth $30 in average circulated condition, but that same coin in a near-perfect grade of MS65 could be worth $1,000. And in MS67, it could be worth $10,000. Condition is king. That's why you see coins in those plastic holders or slabs from grading services like PCGs and NGC. These companies authenticate and grade the coin, so a buyer knows exactly what they're getting. For high-end, valuable coins, this third-party grading is essential. It takes the guesswork out of it. A small scratch, a little bit of wear, a fingerprint. These things can cost a coin thousands or even millions of dollars in value at the highest levels. So remember, if you find an old coin, don't clean it. You could be wiping away a fortune. The third pillar, and my personal favorite, is historical significance. This is the story behind the coin. A 1792 half dismay isn't just a rare coin, it's a coin supposedly made from Martha Washington's silverware. The 1804 dollar isn't just a low mintage piece, it's the king of American coins, made for diplomatic gifts. The 1943 copper penny is a symbol of wartime error and necessity. This historical context adds a layer of romance and importance that you can't put a number on, but it absolutely drives the price up. People aren't just buying a coin, they're buying a piece of the story. Finally, you have the fourth pillar, demand. A coin can be rare, in great condition, and have a good story, but if nobody wants it, it's not going to be valuable. Luckily for US coins, the demand is huge. It's one of the most popular collecting hobbies in the world. Certain series, like Morgan dollars, Lincoln cents, or St. Gaudens double eagles, are wildly popular with millions of collectors. This broad base of demand keeps prices stable and strong. And for the top-tier rarities, the demand from wealthy collectors and investors who want the best of the best is intense. Sometimes errors and varieties can create their own demand. The 1955 doubled die cent, where all the lettering is dramatically doubled, was a huge mistake by the mint. But collectors went crazy for it, and it's still one of the most famous error coins today. The same goes for the Cheerios dollar. The unique variety created a collecting frenzy. These little quirks and mistakes make the hobby interesting and create new areas for collectors to focus on. So, it's this unique combination of factors, rarity, condition, history, and demand, that creates a multi-million-dollar coin. It has to be rare, it has to be in amazing shape, it has to have a great story, and people have to want it. When all those elements come together, you don't just have a coin anymore. You have a legend, you have a treasure, and that's the secret to the world of valuable coins. It's not just about the money, it's about the magic of finding that perfect piece. So there you have it. From a crude shilling stamped with a pine tree to a dazzling gold coin designed by a master sculptor, we've seen how a simple piece of metal can tell a powerful story. These coins aren't just items on a collector's checklist, they are witnesses to history. They were there for the birth of the nation, they rode the rails west during the gold rush, they were saved and sacrificed during wartime, and they were part of the technological boom of the modern age. Each coin is a chapter in the great American story, reflecting the country's struggles, its ambitions, and its triumphs. When you look at the evolution of these designs, you see America's own evolution. We went from simple, defiant symbols of liberty to grand, artistic statements of global power. The metals themselves tell a story of resources, from Spanish silver to California gold to industrial steel. These aren't just collectibles, they are national treasures, as important as any document in the National Archives. They are the currency of our shared experience, tangible artifacts that connect us directly to the people and events that shaped our world. They prove that history isn't just something you read about in a book, it's something you can hold in your hand. I hope this journey has shown you that there's a whole world hiding in plain sight, in the change in our pockets and the collections in our safes. Every coin has the potential for a great story. Now I want to hear from you. What's your favorite coin we talked about today? Do you have a special coin that's been passed down in your family? Maybe you found an interesting error coin in your change once. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. You never know what story you'll find next.